How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Have I really not been live on this show for 10 days? So last time I updated that thing on the front page, 10 days ago, I have been gone. But we did have shows from the Jericho Cruise. Got back on Friday, it's now Sunday, and we are back in action. Because, in fact, there's 1,000 things to talk about here today, not the least of which is the Royal Rumble, which in fact is going on right now. Sheamus has already defeated Shorty G. Not sure if anybody was expecting otherwise. If you were, I don't know what to tell you. But we could talk about all of the matches for the Royal Rumble today. I got a full preview. There's going to be some surprises on the show here today. And we'll try not to give any spoilers because, quite frankly, we don't really have any spoilers until after the live show airs. There are things that we are expecting. There are a lot of rumors. We could talk about those on the show today. The full lineup, odds for the matches, who the odds makers think are going to win the whole 9 yards. Royal Rumble on the air right now with the 2-hour pre-show. Main show starts at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. We'll be watching it live. And then 2 more shows coming up tonight for subscribers. Myself and Vinny and my buddy Mark will in fact be recapping the Royal Rumble after the show goes off the air for the Bryan and Vinny show. Yes, we will be joined by Granny tonight as well, who I think is watching the Royal Rumble. And then later on tonight, myself and Dave Meltzer talking all of the matches on the show and so much more. As far as other news, there's a lot of it. There was Worlds Collide last night. What were your thoughts on Worlds Collide? I thought it was a very good show. Not the greatest takeover of all time, takeover-style show, but a very good show. Walter won the main event for his team. Imperium beating Undisputed Era. And I don't know if it's going to be Walter versus Adam Cole, but Walter won the main event. He beat Undisputed Era, and it has been announced that William Regal will give us the challenger for Adam Cole at TakeOver Portland coming up this Wednesday on the show. I hope it's Walter. That match would be awesome. So we can talk about all of this and so much more when we come back from the break. Mike Sempervive joins us back in a moment to Wrestling Observer Live. All right, we're back here in the show. Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also WrestlingObserver.com. And yes, in fact, I am back. I believe I have not been on the show live for 10 days. We did some shows from the Jericho Cruise. Now I'm back. I'm tan. Got my braids. I'm all ready to go. I'm all ready to go for Royal Rumble here today, Mike. Fine job when I was gone. Actually, don't know what you did, but whatever it was, good job. Here, Jim is back. Is he alive?
He is. Still a little under the weather, but he's coming along okay. Sounds a little bit better than Dave does right now, that's for sure.
That's not saying much.
It's not.
Well, any questions about the cruise?
Yeah. Did you lose a bet, or did you really decide to get off the boat and get your hair braided?
Get out of
like
here.
that?
Are you kidding me? Of course I was going to get my hair braided.
Well,
I was in the Bahamas. What were you going to do? Just like wear a suit? Get off the boat? I mean, come on. I got off the boat. I got my hair braided. Yeah. I got on a little skiff. I rowed a little boat to the island. I went to the beach. I lived the life.
Now, how were the beaches? Because we hear about how great the boat was and everything, but like, how were the
awesome.
Sandy white beaches?
Are you kidding me? It was a beach in the middle of the Bahamas. Of course it was awesome.
A little bit beautiful. Better than what you get off the coast of Oregon.
And actually, ironically, the day that we got off the boat was, in fact, the sunniest, nicest day. But we happened to be in the Bahamas, so that was very nice. Listen,
I'm sure
everybody.
You bought that.
Listen. Save your money, everyone. Like, if you're listening to this and you have the ability to go on the Jericho Cruise next year, you have to go. It was so much fun. Like, every person that I met there, I said, "Did you go last year?" And they were like, "Yes, I had to go a second time." Every single person I met. Now, apparently, like, the official tally was 40% of the people went last year and 60% were new. I find that hard to believe. I didn't talk to one single person that was there for the first time, except like me and Dave. Everybody that we talked to was there last year. And like every single one of them was planning to already go back next year. And, you know, I've gone to WrestleManias and Access and StarCast, and like all of these things were great. But this cruise was more fun than all of them. And everybody that I talked to said the same thing. Like, if you think I'm out of my mind, where if you're on social media or whatever, or on some message board, ignore anything I just said. Go on there and say, who went on the Jericho Cruise, and did you have a good time, and are you going to go again next year? Like, I was going to say there might be one exception, but I can't really say that because the first night I did see somebody in the cafeteria who was asleep face down in their food. And I actually went over there to make sure that they were alive and they were breathing, so I just allowed them to sleep.
How was producer Rob?
Face first in their food. But, like, then I saw them the next day and they were having fun. So, like, that would have been the one person that I would say, maybe that guy didn't have a great time on the Jericho Cruise. Turns out I think they had an even better time on the Jericho Cruise than I even imagined. So, like, everybody on the boat is a wrestling fan. You can literally, like, I was looking for Dave one night because, he had no cellular or a wireless or anything. I'm just looking all over on this boat for Dave.
Whose job was it to watch Dave tonight?
Me.
Damn it.
It was me. And I'm wandering around this boat, and I run into a bunch of people that are just sitting on the stairs hanging out talking. And, like, none of them knew each other. They had just met each other, like, 5 minutes earlier. But they're all on the boat for the same thing, which is wrestling. And all of a sudden, there were, like, 7 people sitting there, all best buds. They never met each other in their lives, but they had 1,000 things to talk about on this boat. That's what this boat was about. The cafeteria, the buffet free. You walk in there at any time, you just eat whatever you want. There was like some drink card where you could just drink nonstop the entire thing. There were high-end restaurants. There was like a Brazilian steakhouse. I swear to God, first night I run into this guy. I'd never met him before, but apparently he was a subscriber or whatever. He just walks by and he goes, no Brazilian steakhouse, but this place is awesome. And he just runs off. He was wrong. There was a Brazilian steakhouse on this boat. There was a Japanese steakhouse. It was just more food than you could possibly... I gained 8 pounds on this boat. 8
That's amazing.
Pounds.
8 pounds.
And do you know how much walking I did? Because the boat was like 14 floors. And you could take an elevator, but these elevators, that was like one thing about this place. Like if the elevators were going down, they were going to go all the way down. So... like, if you tried to jump on in the middle, even if no one was on the elevator wasn't going to switch direction. So you had to go all the way down and then all the way back up. So a lot of the time, we just walked the stairs. And so I did like 5,000 stairs, 5,000 steps, 25,000 steps, whatever. We walked back and forth on this boat all day. I got so much exercise, I still gained 8 pounds on this boat. And no, I don't regret it for a moment. There was wrestling every night. If you're a wrestling fan, there was like 2 hours of wrestling every single night. There was a Dynamite taping. There was a bowling tournament. There were concerts throughout the day, every day. You could not have fun on this boat. So anyway, they're going again next year, February 1 through 5. If you get a chance, like if you go to Access or if you go to StarCast or all these events, if you're one of those people that does that, do this. Because not only is it all of those things and more, but you get to dock in the Bahamas and get abused by everybody that works there. But still, you got a lot of stories to tell when you come home. So I had a great time. I had the time of my life. So did Dave. Then we came back home and worked nonstop.
By the way, how dare you, a worker bitching about another worker?
Oh, dude.
How dare you? For subscribers of Wrestling Observer Radio, by the way, they already know this story. Would you like to tell any of the people out there on Sirius XM?
I'm not going to waste everybody's time, but I'll tell you this. All right? I debuted in a ring in 1998. And back then, like, there were still the old workers from the Carney days. There's still Carneys today, but there's certainly far less today than there were in 1998.
More sideshows.
I saw every possible gimmick. I had the story about where, I think it was Buddy Rose, he pretended to take a bump in a supermarket and gigged, and then tried to get money out of them because they hadn't put the thing up about the wet floor. This is the kind of people we're talking about here.
King Curtis Iakea did that. Got his piece of the island that way. When they took him off the surfboard, gigged himself, and it made itself look like a massacre. He got himself his free stuff.
These were the workers that I was dealing with in the 90s. And, man, I got off this boat, and every single person on that island I came into contact with was trying to screw me one way or the other. Every single one of them. Like, it was incredible. It was like I got off the boat and I entered wrestling. And then I got back onto the boat with the wrestlers and I was in a normal place. It was crazy. But it was fun. I'd talk about these stories for the rest of my life. So anyway, I cannot... Oh, and by the way, there was also... Hey, if you're a fan of After Dark, there were paranormal podcasts, like 3 of them. You want to hear Luchasaurus talking about the moon landing? You want to hear Dean Ambrose talking about the UFO that he filmed? You want to hear him talking about Bigfoot and how he didn't think there was any Bigfoot outside of the West Coast, and then he was smartened up? I mean, it was crazy. It was awesome.
The dude who was face down in his food actually made an appearance at one of those.
He may have. I don't know. But yeah, it was an awesome time.
Did you go down the big water slide? Did
they didn't have a water slide, but if they did, I would have.
You and Marco could have went in a tandem.
Marco did karaoke. And you know what? He didn't do karaoke. He did a performance because there was a live band singing the song.
The new David Lee Roth?
Yeah, he blew away Jericho, and the moment it was over, Jericho said, "You're booked for your own show next year on the boat." So Marco, he's getting an acoustic concert ready now for next year on the boat.
God.
Yep.
Jesus.
MJF went into the pool. Honestly, what more could you ask for? MJF got thrown in the pool. It was awesome. So, yeah, I recommend the Jericho Cruise to anybody that is into literally anything. I mean, name something. Bowling, drinking, eating, wrestling, the paranormal, concerts, movies. Name something. It was on the boat. The Disney cruise was right next door. You could have just jumped on that boat, maybe.
Well, oh my God! So did you guys actually told the Disney cruise to F off? Is that what you're saying?
Nah, I don't think it was a Disney cruise. It might have been, but I think they were 2 over.
Oh my God!
The boat that everyone was shouting profanities at.
Shame to yourselves.
Don't think that was a Disney cruise. But hey, we'll be back in a minute with wrestling, everybody. We'll talk Royal Rumble and the rest of the news. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. We got Booker T, Renee Young, and Nietzsche here running down the Royal Rumble show. And I should note that the 2 dark matches are over. And Sheamus defeated Shorty G, because of course he did. Big man versus little man, what are you expecting? And it's Sheamus' big return, so of course he's going to win. And Andrade Humberto Carrillo. For those of you not paying attention, Andrade gave Humberto Carrillo that tornado DDT gimmick on the cement, and whatever his DDT is. But he kills this guy, and we don't see Humberto for ever. Weeks we didn't see him. I was wondering where the guy was, and every now and then they'd remind me, oh yeah, he was killed by Andrade. So here he's back. They have a championship match, and for the finish, Humberto tries a cradle. Andrade rolls through, pins him clean as a sheet. No tights, nothing. Just beats this guy clean in the middle. So that's that for Humberto. Was nice knowing you, buddy. Was nice knowing you and your dimples. Maybe you can be the next Cruiserweight champion on NXT.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe he can be the next Humberto Garza, possibly, because I don't know what exactly they're doing there. I like Jordan Devlin, and I liked the match last night. Fun cluster to begin the show, and again, this is nothing against Jordan Devlin whatsoever. If they have some sort of grand plan for everybody involved, great, but you took the title off him now? I thought things were humming really well. So unless we're going to see a feud that I guess leads to something, and I don't know how we're going to do that with NXT UK being the way it is and logistics being the way they are, I have no idea how that makes any sense. But it was a weird show last night. I don't know what you thought of it. I haven't really seen a whole lot of reaction. I haven't really sought it out today, so I'm not exactly sure what the consensus is, but it was a good show, but I didn't feel as though after watching it that if I would have skipped it, I would have missed anything. I thought I'm very surprised that Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley came off as generic and as antiseptic as it was. I don't know why you would put those two in the ring with each other if you didn't want to have some sort of banger, considering that they are 2 very marketable women that look like they could be a big part of your future.
So I don't know what's going on, but there's a big walk-up for the Royal Rumble, but the line has not moved in 45 minutes. So there's some very angry fans outside the building right now, but should be filled up by the time the show starts. We got the men's Royal Rumble, the women's Royal Rumble, Bray Wyatt, Daniel Bryan in a strap match. I got Becky Lynch, Asuka for the Raw Women's title, Roman Reigns, King Corbin, Falls Count Anywhere, and Bayley, Lacey Evans for the SmackDown Women's title. Announced so far for the men's Rumble is almost everybody, so very few surprises in the men's Rumble. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, who's entering number 1, AJ Styles, Eric Rowan, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Ricochet, McIntyre, Elias, Corbin, Ziggler, Otis, Tucker, Rusev, Lashley, Black and Murphy, Strowman, Nakamura, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Joe, Kofi Kingston, Big E, Truth, John Morrison, and The Miz. And yes, Truth undeclared and then declared again. So right now he is in the Royal Rumble, probably to be killed by Brock. That would be my guess.
Are we sure about that, though? Because right now he's been up talking to Booker T, Renee, and your boy.
The Rumble's a long way away. There's plenty of time to get that outfit on. We got the Women's Rumble. Charlotte, Alexa, Nikki, Sarah, Natty, Carmella, and Dana are the only women announced. That's 7 women out of 30. There are 23 women that will be surprises in the Women's Royal Rumble match. Will Ronda Rousey be there? I don't know. Will Edge be there? I don't know.
In the Women's Royal Rumble, you think he will be?
There's a lot of rumors about who's going to be there, but you know what? We hear rumors every year, and often nothing becomes of them. But my gut tells me that Edge is going to be in this match. My gut is not quite as powerful for Ronda Rousey, but I guess we'll see.
Well, I don't know. It's Casey Canizaro, now that she's back on the roster, we haven't seen Naomi in a while, right? Can they have some sort of walk off or something like that? I mean, the same thing with like Kofi Kingston and Ricochet. I have a feeling we could maybe see that with those two tied up with each other doing something, or can you top this on the outside of the ring before one person pushes them both away?
These are the odds. The Men's Rumble, the favorite right now is Roman Reigns at minus 200. McIntyre plus 300. Cain Velasquez minus 550. Listed as a strong favorite to be the person to eliminate Brock Lesnar. So I guess we'll see. And McIntyre, Reigns, Strowman, and Edge are the next favorites. For the Royal Rumble, favorite is Shayna Baszler, minus 300. She's in town, so I'd be stunned if she wasn't in the match. And Charlotte at plus 650. Bayley, favored over Lacey, minus 230 to keep the title. Evans is plus 170. You may as well change the title, but I mean, some of these odds, I mean, they are going to do some things that are different from the odds here. Sheamus minus 700, so he won. Roman Reigns minus 140. King Corbin plus 100. So I guess that's what could happen. It seems to be the feeling is that Corbin wins the wacky Falls Count Anywhere match, and then Roman wins the Rumble. But if Roman's not winning the Rumble, then he's probably beating Baron Corbin. So Becky Lynch minus 475. I figured the odds would actually be much longer for that one. And Bray Wyatt minus 600 favorite over Daniel Bryan here in the strap match. So there you go. Santino, by the way, had the record-setting deal here. He may be in the Royal Rumble as well. He's there. Although, man, you only have 3 spots left. God bless Santino. I love the guy. But that's one of your 3 surprises? I feel like there could be bigger surprises than Santino for that Royal Rumble. And hey, maybe some people in that Rumble won't even be in the Rumble. Plans change, as we're all well aware. So we'll see.
I don't know. What do you think about it? I know when they expanded it out to 40 that one time, they in fact, I think it was Santino that got pitched out by Alberto Del Rio at the end, and it was very underwhelming. But if you think about it, you don't have to have a bunch of matches on this show anyway. And I know with 2 Royal Rumbles, it may be asking too much to move it up to 40. But with all of the talent that you have, you could actually, I mean, you could make it like 1992 every year if you really, really wanted it to, if you wanted to put the thought and the effort into it. And I think with the amount of talent they have, they really should do 40 where you have X amount lined up from each brand that 92. You know are going. You know what I mean? And that still leaves a lot of room to bring in some surprises. What does 92 have
to do with anything?
Because wasn't 92 the best Rumble of all time where Flair won? But you look at the talent that was in there.
But it wasn't
Well, I mean, at least as far as the talent that was in there, that's what I'm equating it to today, where if you wanted to be serious and make it a really, you know, a really big deal, which I don't think the Royal Rumble is as much anymore. I mean, look at the amount of geeks and look at the amount of stuff that's repetitive every year that happens. It does need to be shaken up, and I think if you expanded it out and you put a little bit more thought into it, it could be a lot more fun again. And I think, you know, for how most of their year is, I don't know. I want the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, if nothing else, to be great. And it hasn't been. And I really would love to get that old feeling back.
This person here says, great meeting you and Dave on the boat. First time I've ever listened live. Anyway, this is also the first time that I have not watched the Rumble in well over 10 years, and I don't care.
See?
And that makes me a little sad. Well, if it makes you sad, then watch it. Right?
Well,
maybe he can't watch it. Maybe that's the point.
Or he's that, maybe he's just a wrestling fan that's just that burnt out by what they've given him, where it's like, I could take it or leave it. And, that should make you kind of sad, but then again, hopefully for him, he's finding a way to stoke his wrestling fires. There's enough other stuff out there that you can latch onto something, not the least of which is a company that puts on a cruise that you went on.
He also notes he gained 9 pounds. It beat me there. All right. By the way, I'm not very heavy, so that 9 pounds, that's like 10% of my body weight, I think. Maybe
for
not quite
God's
that much.
sake. So what are you up to now?
Dude, I was 154 when I got off that boat, and I was 145 when I left. It was 9 pounds.
Boxing middleweight, I guess.
A lot of weight. I was 149 today, though, so it's already steadily dropping.
How does Dave said what did he say, 2
Dude, I explained this last night. Dave ate well on the boat and got a lot of exercise. I ate
Bryan.
horribly on the boat and got a lot of exercise.
No, you're missing what I'm curious about here. Forget about the fact that he either put on or lost weight. It's that he's got a way to measure it to 2/10.
Yeah, I do.
On a scale somewhere.
My scale's a digital scale. It tells you by the 10th of a pound.
Dude, the only thing you're training to do at this point is clean up diapers and not step on Legos in the middle of the night. What do you need that
Get
for?
out of here,
What does
Mike.
he need that for?
This person says, did you hear the rumors of AJ Lee in the Rumble? I have not heard those rumors, but hey, they need 23 women. So, could be anybody. Could be Victoria, who beat me at Celebrity Bowling. Another gimmick. I think it was run by the people in the Bahamas. I was screwed.
Those carny games at carnivals, they do have the tilts on them, on the baskets.
Yeah, there was a tilt on the lane.
It was the entire boat. You're all water.
No, it was only my lane, though.
What?
The people next to us didn't have a gimmick lane. Yeah, we had a gimmick lane. It was all oiled weird and angled. It was not fair. Person says, why can't we get Matt Riddle or Walter in the Rumble confronting Brock? Well, you could, but I'm a fan of Riddle or Walter, and I don't want them to be eliminated like geeks, which is what would happen to them. So I'm better off with them not being in the Rumble. Matt
Riddle could somehow knock out Brock Lesnar, and we get Brock Lesnar and Matt Riddle at the Royal Rumble or at WrestleMania. Can you imagine such a thing?
Person says, the most over guy on the Worlds Collide show was Matt Riddle. I and the crowd loved that segment, with Dunn as a straight man to play off of. This duo has won me over. I get where people are coming from when they say it's a misuse of Riddle, but let's enjoy this run while it lasts. Well, hey, the run was great, but he should be in a better spot. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Just sitting around waiting for this Royal Rumble to start. Mm-hmm. They're all hanging out there, trying to promote this show on the WWE Network.
Cold.
She might be. I don't know.
Shivering and shaking. Then again, maybe it's standing next to Sam that'll do that to her. Oh, well, here now they're walking to the back. Walking up the ramp, Booker T high-fiving everyone. Sam looking confused. He's got a large head. Renee strolling by the ring, slapping the ring right now. No idea what's going on.
We need 85 people to talk about this show, apparently.
Yeah.
As far as says, you and Dave convinced me to try and get tickets for the cruise next year. I think Jericho might need a bigger boat, though. I've never been on a cruise. The most I've ever done is go on a ferry boat, which I went on yesterday, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And I show up, and this boat is as big as a city. It's just gigantic. You could take all of downtown Bothell, and I'm pretty sure fitted in this boat. I'm like, my God, look at the size of this boat. We get on the boat, and we walk around, and just blown away by the size. We set sail, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, we're in the Bahamas. We all get off the boat, and there's 5 other boats docked, and ours is the smallest boat. What?
Did you have envy?
Dude, these boats were so big. There's water slides at the top of these boats. There's 5. So we were for the Dynamite taping. We're in the middle of 2 other boats. There's a boat on either side. And these boats are so big that, like, people are on the boats looking down at the wrestling, which is on the top of our boat. So, yeah, I think he's going to need a bigger boat because I think that cruise next year is going to sell out quick. That's my feeling.
Somebody's there to hustle where it's like, okay, I only want to see the Dynamite taping. Is it cheaper for me to go on this other boat and then just watch it off the other boat? Like people,
I suspect it was not cheaper for them to go on any of these boats. There was no cheap trip on this boat. It says, before it happens, I'd like to be the first one to say that Dio Madden will eliminate Brock in the Rumble tonight. Andrew, my friend, if you want to make a $100 bet, buddy, I'll make that bet. I don't think Dio Madden is eliminating Brock Lesnar.
How about Kofi Kingston? That's another one. People
no,
like to,
not happening.
They would love that.
You kidding me? Are you kidding me? This person says, I was told every time Marco appeared, you ran the opposite direction. Get out of here. If anything, it was the other way around. Hey, now, my real issue on the boat was with MJF. That guy.
Why?
I can't even say on the air what I want to call this guy. He interrupted our Q&A, just walked up on stage, just took a mic and took over. It's like, come on, get out of here. Get off my stage. It's my show.
My God, it's like, never mind.
This person here says, WWE is so concerned, if they're so concerned about what their belts are called, how about they save everyone time by combining the men's and women's rumbles? Well, what he's talking about is how in NXT, it's no longer the NXT women's title. It is now the NXT title. There's the NXT title and the NXT title. The NXT champion is Adam Cole, and the NXT champion is Shayna Baszler. Or not Shayna Baszler, Rhea Ripley. But, like, they don't differentiate men's and women's anymore, which is absolutely stupid. And I'm not saying that as a sexist, okay? Listen, this is just ridiculous. Like, listen to me. This is a company that will not allow men to touch women in an intergender match, okay? The men are not allowed to touch the women and vice versa, all right? So this company that won't allow men and women to touch each other in a match, they're taking the name women out of the women's title, which is for the women in the women's division, okay? Now listen, this is not sexist, all right? You want to solve this problem? The NXT women's title is the NXT women's title, and the NXT men's title is the NXT men's title. Put the word men in the title as opposed to taking the word women out of the title. Like, I'm not a huge sports guy, but that's what happens in every sport on the planet. In sports where women have been represented for decades, way better than the women in WWE are represented now. It's not called singles tennis and singles tennis. It's called men's singles and women's singles. It's not called gymnastics and women's gymnastics. And it's not called gymnastics and gymnastics. It's not called floor exercise and floor exercise. It's men's floor and women's floor. You add men to it. You don't take away the word women. Right?
It's 6-1 at this point with me, 6-1, half a dozen the other, because I would tend to agree with you because I like sports.
Even Becky Lynch, whose gimmick is she's the man. After they did this, she went on Twitter and she wrote this big thing out, which basically said, I wasn't saying take the word women out of it. I was just saying, like, can we not have it where, we have to have 3 women's matches? It just be, we have to have X number of matches. If the women's matches are important, the women's matches are on the show, and if they're not, they're not. That's what she's saying. She even said that.
You're exactly right, but it also could look. It's very simple because the rules are the rules in WWE. When it's just 2 people in there, it's like it should be obvious, and it doesn't necessarily have to be stated every time that there's 2 women wrestling. I have 2 eyes. I see that it's 2 men. I don't have to be told that it's the NXT Men's Championship. The same way as when I'm watching a women's match, that I don't have to be beaten over the head with the fact that it is the Women's Championship that I'm watching. It's just the NXT Championship. I get it. I mean, for me, to me, it doesn't really matter all that much. I tend to agree with you because, again, I do like sports, so these things are already there. But to be honest, my dander on this one isn't necessarily that high up. It's just
my dander's not up. It's just dumb.
But a lot of
like when Regal goes.
A lot of this is
when Regal goes, a number 1 contender for the NXT title is Walter. Like, what title? Rhea's title? Because they're both called the NXT title. Is Walter the number one contender for Rhea and Adam Cole?
But that's the whole thing. At that point, then okay, now you're being a little obtuse about it because there's
they don't differentiate.
Yes, because Bryan, you already said they have differentiated. There is no intergender. So when you see two women wrestling, it's two women wrestling. It's for the NXT whatever championship. Again, this whole argument is stupid. I think a lot of what has happened with a lot of intergender and all of there are so many moving parts to this and nobody can figure out what they want. Everybody is afraid to touch certain things and some promotions just go, it's just all over the place. And I don't see how them just taking away women off the title, off the name is that big of a deal. I really don't.
You know what? If you ever come to Seattle, Mike, I'm going to say, Mike, let's meet at McDonald's. You know what you're going to say? Which one? I'm going to say, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to add the street name to it. I'm just going to say McDonald's.
And you know what I'm going to say? Good, because I don't want to meet at a sorry-ass McDonald's anyway, you cheap sucker. Tom was right about
what other... Okay, fine, I'll do a better one. Meet me at Starbucks. Oh, which one? Oh, they're all Starbucks. I took the street names out of it. They're all equal. The one on Main Street is equal to the one on Skid Row.
But look,
so I just took the name out of it. Just meet me at the Starbucks. Keep driving until you find it.
This is what happens. I can't.
It's dumb.
This whole thing is nonsense. You're exactly right. The whole thing is nonsense, but I don't. When I see two people in there, I don't have to keep calling it the NXT Women's Championship over and over again when I've never called it the Men's Championship over and over again either.
Yeah, why are they on the main roster? So we don't have a men's Royal Rumble and a women's Royal Rumble, even though one is all men and one is all women. We just got the Royal Rumble and the Royal Rumble. You know how dumb that would be? That'd be really dumb. You know what they do? You know what they do? They say, it's the men's Royal Rumble and the women's Royal Rumble, which is what you should do for the titles. You want to call it the men's Raw title and the women's Raw title? Knock yourself out.
I would rather see different non-gender roles at the end, different wording then. Call it something else. Come up with something more creative than just worrying about it if it's all about
Don't
gender.
Even get
Come
me
up
started.
with something more creative.
This person says, your friend Mark is going to be so happy watching that Royal Rumble number stat by the numbers video. Yes.
Oh God, is he?
Yes, he'll be here tonight. Once a year. He hasn't watched any wrestling since summer either, so it's even better. He gave up on this company, but he's here for this show. This person here says, I agree. I think people completely misconstrued Becky's proposal on WWE backstage, so she had to tweet that statement. Yes. Because people hear something and they freak out about it, and they make a rash decision, and they don't think for 2 seconds, when if they thought for 2 seconds, they would come up with a better idea, which is my idea. And it's not even like it's a brilliant idea, because every frickin' sports organization there's ever been does it this way. It's not my fault that the guy in charge watches less sports than I do. Let's just call Adam Cole's title the NXT Men's Championship. Yes.
Well,
you're right.
Then, okay, well, what happens if we have a transgender wrestler then?
Well, if there's a division of them, then you call it the transgender title.
Are we going to start split? Do you think we should go to that? Do you think that could be coming
I don't
next?
think we're going to have enough transgender wrestlers for quite a while.
A transgender 205 title?
It's unlikely there's going to be that many transgender wrestlers to have an entire division. I could be wrong.
What about little people? Little people,
there's not enough of them either.
Group of them. What happened to that? It's not like there's not little people anymore. Why aren't they wrestling?
You know what
anymore?
happened to it?
What?
It's because it used to be called
reality
midget.
TV?
It used to be called midget wrestling, and the term midget became politically incorrect. By the way, to everybody except midgets, because
That's true.
Because we have had, I guess, little people is how I'm supposed to phrase it on our show. Puppet what was his name? Puppet the Dwarf or whatever. And he was furious that you couldn't be called midgets anymore, because he was like, that was my livelihood. Midget wrestling was my livelihood. And they took that away by saying you can't call them midgets anymore. They have to be little people. Nobody's going to pay for little people wrestling. So, yes, this is what happens.
Was Puppet the one pleasuring himself in that trash can on
TNA
so. In front of Goldilocks?
I believe so. This person says, how did you gain 8 pounds in 5 days? Well, most of it was water, I'm sure. I didn't gain
steak.
8 pounds of fat in 5 days. I mean, come on.
Did you try, though? Ice cream?
Maybe you have an underactive thyroid. No. I have a body that puts on water. When you don't eat carbs And then all of a sudden, you eat everything under the sun for 5 days. Yeah, you gain 8 pounds. I'm surprised I only gained 8 pounds.
You're like a woman with your braids and your water weight gain.
I did go swimming with my daughter today, and I looked like Bo Derek. It's really weird. This person says, is Walter the number one contender to Adam Cole? I don't know. We'll find out on Wednesday. I hope so. He beat all of Undisputed Era basically by himself, so he deserves it. If Regal is a fair GM, then the number one contender will, in fact, be Walter. Person says, R-Truth doesn't want to get taken to Sioux Falls City. Seriously? Am I really watching this? Yes, you are. What are you expecting?
You're watching for Charlie Caruso. At least there's always Charlie. When things are bad, there's Charlie.
This person says, weight fluctuates by several pounds throughout the day. What's the point of having such a precise scale? Well, maybe you weigh your food on it, too.
Oh, come on.
I don't know.
What do you got, an all-in-one scale?
I mean, maybe you weigh your animals, too. Like, you weigh yourself, and then you hold your animal. And Vinny's trying to walk in on me here, in the middle of this show.
Do you have pants
He's all
on?
excited for this Royal Rumble. And why wouldn't he be?
Pants on.
This person here says, what's stopping Brock from just challenging for the Universal title if he should win the Rumble? Well, actually, you know what? You could do that and do The Fiend versus Brock at WrestleMania, title for title. You could do that.
Or Brock runs the table tonight. He gets to pick who he wants to face, and he faces the NXT champion. Both of them at the same time.
Alrighty. A couple of other messages here before we head to the break. A couple of news notes, by the way, very quickly. So, the Briscoes re-signed with Ring of Honor. They announced today that they had re-signed, and 11-time champions. A 12th reign is what they're focused on next. They've been there. Won the titles in 2003.
Yes.
So there you go. Tag Team of the Decade for the 2010s in Ring of Honor, and Tag Team of the Year 2019. Back in a moment with more Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Apparently, Sammy Guevara is in the parking lot right now with a toy tank invading the Royal Rumble. Dying over here. This guy's the greatest. Actually, there's a lot of the greatest on that cruise, but that's another story for another day. Ryan here says, what was the male-to-female ratio on the Jericho Cruise? There were a ton of women on that cruise. We never had so many women ask questions during the 2 Q&As. It was like a record. Not kidding. Because a lot of people had so much fun last year that they brought their significant other this year, who also had fun. What are the odds that John Cena eliminates Lesnar in the Rumble? Ryan, get out of here. All right. So it's been announced, the February 5th edition of AEW Dynamite, Huntsville, Alabama. It will be the lashing. MJF, Cody Rhodes. Cody will receive his 10 lashes on the Wednesday, February 5th edition of AEW Dynamite. That's next week's show. So the match expected to take place February 29th, Revolution pay-per-view, Chicago, Illinois. That's the next big one. So it's coming up in a couple of Wednesdays. And I'm sure Mike and Jim went over the ratings and everything like that for the shows. We don't have to talk about that. But make sure you check out the Observer Live feed for the last week, because I think Mike was here Monday and Friday with Jim. I did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with Dave. We had a million Observer radio shows. And guess what? There's 2 more to come tonight for subscribers. Bryan and Vinny Show with my buddy Mark. Yes, Mark is here for the annual appearance at the Royal Rumble show. We'll be here after the Royal Rumble to talk about that show. And then later on tonight, myself and Dave Meltzer, Royal Rumble and all the news. So check it out, everybody. Back tomorrow with more. We're back to normal here on Wrestling Observer Live. Thanks, Mike, as always. Callers and listeners, over to the studio. We'll talk to you again next time. Wrestling Observer Live.